Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Become a channel member where you'll get access to all archive videos, support black male media, support independent media, super chats enabled, super thanks for the Replay Gang, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, Dr. Thunder Music, all one word. Spell out the word doctor. And if you'd like to buy me a sandwich, then hit that Cash App. Sandwich Gang in the building. This is the longest running episodic level up skills and resources, self-improvement, show in this space. And we've been on a bit of a hiatus, but we're back at it. I am Dr. Thunder, and this is Getting Ish Done with Ike and Dr. Thunder. And as I described, the show is focused on productivity. It's focused on productivity. It is focused on productivity. And the show that we have loaded up for you today, how to change an unhealthy work environment. How to change an unhealthy work environment. Man, I have to tell you, especially given certain recent events, promotions, and things that have occurred, I was victorious. I made it through, but it was challenging. It was very challenging. And that's part of it. And when you're under the gun, often it's the case that that's when it is revealed who it is that is an ally and who it is that is not an ally. And that can be its own sort of challenge, especially if you're surprised by who's not your ally. You know, the sort of snake in the grass kind of deal. But this is just what it is. And human beings have a tendency towards politicking, maneuvering, tribalizing. They have a tendency towards that. And so understanding how to navigate, and once toxicity has set in, how do you change an unhealthy work environment? So you're in a bad situation. It's been revealed that this might not have been as advertised. What do you do to change that? Well, that's what we're going to discuss, and we're going to use a video, a TED Talk called How to Start Changing an Unhealthy Work Environment. And it's a presentation by Glenn D. Rolfson and part of the TEDx Oslo. So, yeah, I mean, that's what we're going to be dealing with. So, you ninjas that complain that cats don't do no productivity talk, they don't do no level up, they don't do no skills and resources, we should be focusing on that. You know, all you ninjas that are not here right now, this is your chance. This is your opportunity. Don't show up in my show in the morning and start having issues because of whatever topic I'm covering if you're not going to be here. So it's that time. How to change an unhealthy work environment. Getting ish done with Ike and Dr. Thunder. Let's go. Warning. Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. Yeah, that's because today's show will feature graphic violence. No, no graphic violence.
Scenes of torture.
That's right. What is it? What is the name of those? What is it? Phases of death. What those joints?
Yep.
Man, I remember I was a kid, man, and my older brother got a hold. He got a hold of those joints, and he was like, "Hey, you want to see something?" Man, I should have never watched that, bro. That was not the right stuff. One of them was like a dude getting electrocuted in a, you know, capital punishment. It was electrocution, death by electrocution. Eye-poptitude and everything. Another one was a dude getting the guillotine. Yeah, that wasn't probably great for a kid that wasn't even. I don't even know what it was at 10 or something. I don't even know what I was. And let's see. Oh, so one of them, they had this big round table, this big wooden round table, and they had chairs around it. and place sittings, and but you could split there was a big hole in the middle. It was a small hole actually in the middle, and the table. So basically, they trapped a monkey to his head is up through the table, and everybody with these little hammer things beats the monkey to death on you know and then they eat the monkey's brains, and that was so apparently it tastes better when they're like frightened to death, like when it's a lot of fear involved. Oh man.
Oh man, yeah. There's a website called Gore.com. I think Gore got removed with their other similar sites. And there was a time, Rotten.com. I think Rotten.com was around the beginning of the internet. But so October 7th, right?
Hmm.
Heard a lot of stuff about okay, what happened and such. And yes, I'm confessing that I do tend to I tend towards content like that. Um, and I don't enjoy it, but then again, maybe I do because I go go
You
looking
go
for it.
looking for it, right,
Yeah, I'm like, okay, what exactly
right.
happened? What are these? So I went and I saw it. Yes, yeah, it was yes, interesting stuff. Yes.
Yeah. What the other one other traumatic thing happened when I was a kid. Um let's see here. I had to be I guess I could do the math to figure out my exact age when the first Exorcist movie was no longer in the theaters and was broadcast on regular television on a major network.
Hmm.
So I could probably figure out when that first aired, and then I could do the math. But it seems to me like I had to be 10, 11, maybe 12 or something like this. So, it's a movie that came on a regular TV. So, I'm in there, you know, uh other folks are in there. We're watching this movie. And they did a lot of stuff actually they got in trouble for in that movie because
Yeah.
they were putting images of like demons and devils and stuff in between the shutter, you know. Um and so that was that caused you to get that like hair raising on the back of your neck. Your body knows that something is that you may not even perceive yet, but your body is aware that something is spooky or whatever. And I'll tell you, man, I didn't sleep for about 2 weeks after that. I kept having dreams that lions were chasing me down to kill me, all kinds of stuff. Um, and then of course, uh, you want the lights on and stuff. But I'll tell you, man, I can't get enough of those. My favorite is vampire movies,
Hmm.
especially the ones that have more of a story to them. Like I really like Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Mhm. I see.
That because and there's like a connection to like Christianity and the Crusades, and they
Mhm.
like tie in some stuff that's pretty interesting. Um, Vlad the Impaler and all this. They tie some stuff in that's pretty interesting. Um, and then it's hard to beat those Exorcist movies, man.
If you're into vampire stuff, uh, but this is more on the comedic side, but it does have the violence and the other things and whatnot, but it's like a comedy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've heard Things We Do in the Shadows. And it's a pretty good comedy too. There are many like layers of subtlety and it's just kind of farcical and it's crazy. You might want to check that out. It's
Okay,
pretty
I'll,
funny.
I'll check it out. I'll check it out. All right. Well, no, today's show is not about horrific, traumatic sort of events. That's actually not what today's show is about. Today's show is about how to change a toxic work environment. If you're in a bad scenario and you have to, see this, uh you got to see this dirt bag every day. How can you make it, palatable? How can you make it so that you can actually enjoy your job, you can get stuff done, and it's not literally sapping your life force like a big cosmic straw. So that is what today's show is about. And like I said, we've got this video here, and let's just head over here. And it's a TED Talk. And I think we can probably just jump in, but maybe you can give maybe some initial thoughts and maybe an initial response
Yeah.
or reaction to my monologue or whatever.
Yeah. So you just painted a picture, right, of a particular person and how to deal with this thorn in your side. But there's also the general question of, in other words, there are two ways of interpreting that. This is just a particular individual, right? It could be no matter where they are, they're going to be a problem, right? And they just so find themselves to be around. However, it could also be that you have an environment that is bringing out the worst in people, or that is allowing them to show their worst parts, as opposed to keeping it and saving it for their families or whatnot. Like go be an a-hole to your wife, all right? Like
Right.
leave me out of it,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
So it could definitely be a situation like that too, with regards to the environment. It seems like this video, based on the title, I haven't really seen it, is about the environment again, right?
Yeah.
It's about setting that, and I would like to see what he identifies, either to be what the problems and then the symptoms of these problems are, right? Um, like what is it in the environment that could be changed and such and such. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing.
All right. Well, let's jump right in.
Imagine that you just received some negative information about me just before this talk. Maybe he or she who's with you today had heard some rumors about me. Some rumors about me being incompetent, being a liar, being a bragger, that I wear women's underwear. How much do you think that would affect your image of me right now? As a psychotherapist working with occupational health, I met countless employees and leaders who are suffering from a toxic and unhealthy working environment.
So it seems like he's I mean, that's pretty direct. You have anything? You have anything you want to say?
Yeah. So he talked about people spreading, quote unquote. I'm saying spreading, but just because there's regular parlance that we use for this type of stuff, like gossip, talking behind your back, having some information that is negative a priori, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
That seems to be something he's anchoring on here, and how would that affect the perception? So within the work environment, there could be rumors, rumor
Yeah.
spreaders, people who undermine you from afar. Behind your back, at least they may be smiling, they may be right there in your face smiling, right? But they do it behind your back. And he highlighted the fact that this definitely will affect your opinion of now I've put too many people on the table here, but the person that's being talked bad about, right? It'll affect the
Yep.
opinion of that person. In this case, that person is you. Someone is talking behind your back, and not especially if you work in a larger organization, not everyone um, knows you. Let's say, right?
Right.
And because there's different social dynamics that are possible. Because one could say, hey, if it's an office of like 4 people, everyone's talking behind your back, maybe there's something wrong with you, right? Like,
Right.
because
Right.
they see you every day, they know you're like, yeah, maybe what they're saying. But in an organization that is larger and whatnot, I think this idea of encountering people that you don't work with regularly, they're not in the same silo, and such, right? They don't interface with you in certain ways. Let's say with regards to your competence, for example, right? This guy does not interface with you in that kind of a way to be able to judge your competence. So somebody can attack you from a competence perspective, and you walk into the office that day and they're like, that's Sean. He's cool, but I don't know, man. I hear things about his competence, right? That kind of a thing.
Uh-huh.
So in a large organization, I think this is way more damaging because if it's smaller, typically people are like, and no, like it won't work. I don't think. But anyways, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah. So I think particularly in a large environment, in an environment where you don't tend to work with, you work with sort of a small group of folks, right? And so if any of those folks are a snake in the grass and running around spreading all kinds of stuff, saying all kinds of stuff about you, saying you're hard to work with, or saying spreading misinformation, whatever it is, then it's going to make it very, very difficult for you to have any kind of quality working situations with folks outside of there. And in academia, I mean, you're particularly susceptible to this because the tendency is to have a lot of silos, a lot of, okay, I'm just in this unit, just working with these people. And yeah, I mean, it makes you, yeah, I mean, you're a sitting duck. If somebody wants to come after you, it's pretty easy for them to do that. And you'll have no idea of who it is. And so, but the thing is, we know that people in general are like that. People are like that. I mean, I'm not like that. You're not like that. But most people are like that. Most people are, they're going to double cross you. They're going to do X, Y, and Z. They'll have whatever their limit is, but they're going to go for the gusto if they think that they're not going to get caught. Okay. So most folks are like this. So the challenge is, for the workplace is not to incentivize that behavior, and certainly, as much as possible, try to make it so that the person does not benefit. Matter of fact, they end up looking bad if they're caught doing that, as opposed to allowing them to prosper, be awarded and rewarded, and for that kind of behavior. But unfortunately, the sort of political types, the slithery political types, this is great for them because there's not a lot of there's not very much micromanagement. It's very open. So to the extent that an environment is that way, and also seems to actually promote and benefit people that play slimy and loose and play dirty ball, there's not really much that you're going to be able to do. So it's up to the environment. It's up to and that comes top down to set the tone. So,
yeah, it's so the environment needs to set the tone. There is a trivial kind of sidebar filler thing that needs to be said. In other words, it's trivial because it's obvious, but let's just go ahead and say that the individuals receiving the information, right, that are receiving gossip information, right, also need to be held responsible in a certain sense. Now, but now I'm talking about individuals
Yes.
guarding themselves, blah, blah. It's just obvious. Yes, of course. Yeah.
Yep.
If you as an individual listen out there, do not contribute to the problem by being the type of person that listens to gossip, right? And we all know the difference, okay? I'm not, it's not like, well, but how do I know information? It's like, no, you know the difference between somebody just telling you something, right? You guys are having a conversation versus someone who is doing something malicious. And these people have a certain pattern. And if you're the type of person that they're comfortable enough to be telling you, then you already know this person and you know their pattern. So it's not like, like you don't know the types of people who push this type of information and you don't know when they're doing it. So you should take some responsibility there. If you come back to the organization, again, I'm just going to say the thing I often say here with regards to the different types of organizations. You mentioned people being rewarded for being, fast and loose and whatnot. Anywhere in the world you talk about politics, people say politics is a dirty game, right? In other words, regular politics, the government type politics, right? Because there it is pure politics, right? And us as social creatures we just know from experience and everything that politics is dirty. Politics is filled with this kind of backstab, slimy, this, that, underhanded moves, right?
Yep.
So the obvious thing is if you're going into a particular area, there's a sliding scale of super political realms of work versus non-super political realms of work, right? There's always politics involved, no matter what, right? But it's a question of what's the final arbiter, right? Can I go to some higher judge, right, within this particular environment to call it? I like using the physics lab, for example. Yes, there's politics in the physics lab, but there's a higher judge, okay? Right? It's called a scientific method in the process, and is it repeatable? Boom, done, that kind of a thing. And then you get into, well, I'm in an NGO somewhere in the UN. At that point, it's you're getting into a political game. So why do I say that? A priori, you got to know the place you're getting into, and whatever your personality is, you need to then know that you're going to need to harness certain skills. There's some people whom, okay, cool, they're great with the extroverted feeling thing. They're going to come into a political organization and they know how to work it. They're going to be like, I'm going to form this ally over here. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. So it's not necessarily a bad person. I'm talking about a good person going into a political environment, but they're a politician, right? So they're going to work the system well. If you're not so much a politician, you should know a priori, though. Basically, everything being said here is don't be caught unawares. Understand that there's a sliding scale between the physics lab and then all the way to, Geneva in some kind of crazy European Union committee for nonsense.
Yeah, definitely. So, and I recognize that just because a person is a politician, that doesn't mean that they're bad. I think I used to sort of conflate that. I used to sort of conflate that, but I've become savvy enough to understand that there's just certain people that just have a certain social mastery. They just know how to do certain things and how to massage situations, and those folks can be quite useful to make allies of, so long that they're the kind of politician that you can actually trust, right? Mm-hmm. Which that sounds like something I shouldn't say, right? So it's tricky.
Yep.
All right. So anyhow, let's keep going. Here we go.
They are struggling because they're lacking knowledge how to change the environment. They need outside help. I've tried to help them and failed, times and times again. I've tried conflict resolutions, group discussions, individual interviews, leadership coaching, failing time and time again.
So one of the things, and he's talking about, bringing in a third party, and the third party, they're supposed to be able to see stuff even-handedly or whatever. Mm-hmm. See, the issue that I have is, now usually they're not going to bring somebody from outside. right? So if you're having an issue with with somebody else, you can't get along, you can't deal, then whoever the supervisor is, they're going to talk. But if that supervisor is not willing to actually do anything punitive, if he's just going to be in there, what's happening, Rael? If he's just going to be in there and just try to talk through, well, I'm here to aid you talking through your issues. I don't need that. I don't need somebody to help me talk through my issues. I need you to make this rascal stop doing what he's doing. You know what I'm saying? And but sometimes with people's leadership style, they're not going to do that. They're not going to step in and say, cut it out or else you're done. You know, they're just not going to do that because that's not their way. And depending, though, that may not necessarily be a bad thing. You know, it's not necessarily always a bad thing that it goes that way. Maybe if somebody has an issue with you and you're not really doing anything that's a big deal, and so so the supervisor's able to see that, hey, yeah, you kind of just need to get over this. He doesn't need to reform any of this stuff, whatever. So maybe it works in that way, but yeah, I mean, you know, it just depends. But the third party thing, I don't know. I kind of look at that with the side eye. You just want to be able to say you did something. So, and yeah, that's not really effective. Now everybody's just ticked off after this. It's super phony. Just do what you're supposed to do and stop doing the other stuff. You know, it's really simple. But I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that bringing a third party into a political dynamic, a social dynamic, especially if it's work, right? There's no way it's going to have the seriousness, the amount of consequence and whatnot for it to be effective. What I'm thinking about here is, let's say, there's some family, right? It's got issues or whatever. Someone's an addict and it's affecting somebody else and blah, blah, blah. And like, I'm going to have an intervention. I'm going to bring in this third party. I don't know. Maybe it's in Yanla. Save my life. I don't know. Something like that. But I wanted to trigger you there. But but the idea of, okay, let's just say intervention in general, right? And you're bringing in a third party or therapy and whatnot. Those situations, one of the things about it is that there has to be high consequences, right? It's, even the way interventions tend to go and such, right? You're going to need to do this or we're going to blah, blah, blah. It's rock bottom, whatever the hell it is. That's not going to happen at work, right?
No.
It's still just going to, hence the people whom are manipulators within the group are just going to shift the chairs around or whatever around this third party person. The person whom brought in the third party, yes, they're going to be like, oh, I checked the box, I tried, right? And then everyone is pissed off. Even as you mentioned, right? The one that's aggrieved, the people who had to reshuffle the dancing chairs, like, yeah, they got their way, but they're like, oh, you guys had to make me do all this, whatever. And now this third party goes away, the consultant, and they get your paycheck and they cash it. They go to Whole Foods. And then there you are, back at square one, right? I don't think it could work. Even in situations such as, again, the family therapy and such and all that kind of stuff, we understand that it's still a dicey situation. The statistics with regards to success on that are not super great. So you have this other kind of more low stakes situation. It's just gonna be it's gonna get papered over.
Hey, it's been a while since I used an office example, illustration. Season 1, it's the sort of diversity episode where Dunder Mifflin brings in this diversity, equity, and inclusion person to do a talk about sensitivity, racial sensitivity, and stuff like this. And is a brother, and I think the cat. Okay, so he's a brother. So he does this presentation for everybody. Michael Scott is being super obnoxious and stuff, but he does a presentation for everybody. And really, the reason that they brought this cat in was because Michael had said an inappropriate joke with an N word in it. This is season 1. They really changed Michael Scott, his character, because people really, really did not like Michael Scott, and it was a problem. They had to major overhaul him, or else that show was not going to go. But
You
in
like
the
the old
first
Michael
season,
Scott? You like the edgy racist Michael Scott?
no, but edgy, I mean, I like the whole thing, man. I like the whole thing. It's hilarious to me the whole time. But that episode, that diversity episode, it is freaking hilarious. Well, anyhow, the only reason that they brought this guy in was to get Michael Scott to do the training to Michael Scott for him to sign the paper. But as a way to soften, he does the presentation for everybody. So that's funny. So that's like one of those, we brought a third party in, we're washing our hands of the matter. We really didn't even tell the person that really I mean, it came out what the joke was and how it was inappropriate and stuff. But they didn't even single the cat out. They just make everybody do it, you know.
What was the joke? Now you got everybody thinking. What's the joke?
It was a Chris Rock joke about there's black people and then there's
Oh no. Yeah, that's not I don't yeah, that can't, yeah, it's hard to make that work. What the hell was it? Like, that's, I don't see what context you can make that work at work. Like I mean, come on, bro.
Yeah. So, but it's, oh goodness. And then the other thing I wanted to say, I recently finished watching The Sopranos. Well, fairly recently. I watched The Sopranos again, and you know, Moltisanti, what's his name? I can't think of his name. He's like Tony's protege. He's his nephew. I can't think of his name right now. But anyhow,
It's Chris, right? It's Christopher. Christopher.
Yeah, Christopher. That's right. That's right. So, Chrissy, right? Because old girl calls him Chrissy. So you know he's got having his bout with drugs and stuff. So they do it. You want to talk about an effective, what do you call it? What were we just talking about? Interventions. Yeah. You want to talk about an effective intervention? You want to talk about something that had teeth in it? So they get all these people around, and you know, there's the person that's like, you know, they're the person that's supposed to be running the thing. They brought in a professional to run it. He loses control of it real quick. They're like wailing on the cat. They're wailing on Chrissy. Like, they're kicking him and all kind of stuff. They're kicking that ninja to the bottom. But let me tell you, he went to rehab, and he kicked it. That is freaking hilarious, man. They're cussing the dude out in his face, kicking the dude. He's on the floor. They're like stomping the cat. Oh, oh. Oh my goodness. Now that's an intervention.
Yes, sir.
Oh my goodness. Oh, oh goodness. All right, let's roll the tape, man.
To change this unhealthy working environment. So, 10 years ago, I started a little investigation of my own. I was trying to figure out, why is it so hard to change? And I found out that a great number of employees and leaders were talking negatively about their colleagues when they were not present, namely backbiting.
Very interesting. Very interesting. I mean, you're not surprised by this. You know,
Well,
go ahead.
Yes. I guess I'm not. If to the degree to which we're talking about, the fact that he did a study or an investigation and he found out.
Right.
Yes, that is interesting. Not surprising, right?
Right.
And so he has restated what he stated before regarding the negative effects of having heard negative information about, himself, as he uses as an example before he came in, and how it will affect the perception and all that. And so, if there are two levels of conversations going on, where on the one level people are talking about people behind their backs, it typically is, and he mentioned negatively specifically, right? Speaking negatively behind their backs, then I assume that on the surface level conversation, things are not being brought up properly, things are papered over, blah blah blah. But we know on what level of information, what level of conversation the decisions are being made. Decisions are going to be made on the lower subterranean level of conversation of negative information and whatnot, right? So that definitely does suck, and it does bring to mind, speaking with regards to structural changes that could be made to an organization now. This is something we've seen before in this particular show, right? In different things we've reviewed. But if you have an organization and the onus is on you to select the right people in this case, so it's going to need to, the way to maintain this particular structure is going to be heavy on the who you let in aspect. You're going to have a nice little system there for how you bring in certain people, but they need to be people that can get down and dirty about whatever the hell it is their problem is openly, right?
Yeah.
And the particular thing that comes to mind right now is with PayPal. I think somebody mentioned it in one of the episodes before, but it's kind of like a thing. But basically, Peter Thiel, one of the founders of PayPal, along with Elon Musk, reaches out to his college buddy David Sachs because he was like, you know what? I want somebody that I can yell at. So I guess he was working with people that had this kind of, okay, we're going to meet and we're going to have some kind of a consensus, kumbaya, structured conversation about something and not really get to the meat of stuff. Hence, there's still this subterranean level, which we're not getting to, right? And apparently he just couldn't cut it with these people. And he was like, okay, I need to bring in this guy. It was my college buddy, right? And yes, we used to duke it out back in college. So let me bring this guy in. He's going to tell me what he thinks, right? And so one way in which you could structure an environment is to think about this a priori, right? Okay, and even have that as like there is a company called, I don't know if it's Y Combinator or the other Founders Fund or something. It's another Peter Thiel company where that's kind of like their ethos as well. And it's kind of known. It's like over here, it's very, and the way, one of the interpretations of it is that it's kind of individualistic is what they will call it, right? They're like, oh, individual, no consensus, whatever. Basically, they say over here, you're an individual, you come in, you fight for your ideas, and winners win, and such, right? That's kind of how they do it there. They're venture capitalists, right? And it's smart, capable people whom are ready to follow their ideas, stand by it, and such, right? So these are the kinds of organizations that Peter Thiel forms. And I think if it suits your personality, for me, for example, it suits my personality greatly to have this kind of an environment, then I think that it is one option on the table with regards to how to structure things to avoid these subterranean negative conversations and the negative effects of such.
Yeah. Yeah, let's keep going.
So the definition of backbiting is talking negatively about the third person who's not present.
Yeah, I'll tell you something I have noticed is that there are certain cultures of people that do more of this than others, just as a norm. One thing that I noticed is that so let's talk about the dominant society. The dominant society is riddled with this. There's less sort of go straight to the person and tell them in their face. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot more passive aggressive and do it this other way that doesn't create confrontation. Now I told you what happened on happened to Chrissy, to kick that ninja to the bottom, so he could go to rehab. As soon as he tried to do any back talk or defend himself, that's when they started wailing on him. So it's not all Caucasians, as it were, but whatever the combination or whatever of the dominant society in the U.S. tend to be riddled with that. Black people don't tend to be as prone to that passive aggressive stuff. Now, in some ways, that may be to our detriment, actually, because when keeping it real goes wrong, right? Some stuff you might not want to share, and there's a way and a time to do something. But what's amazing to me is folks that have really sort of signed on the dotted line for the dominant society, no matter what their what their ethnicity is, just the amount of just the effort by which to do everything but actually confront the person. I'll do everything and I'll spend all of this energy and I'll do anything that I have to do, even if it's 20 times more stuff to do, than to just go directly to the person and say something. That's a lot more efficient. I think there's just a real, confrontation is just not.
What do you think that comes from, right? And and you can answer it whichever way you want. Where does it come from? I see it as, so what I do guess, I'm making several guesses here. It can't necessarily be the typical modus operandi of this quote unquote dominant society. You don't become, now dominant generally means majority and such, but the way you control an area typically is not by being super passive aggressive, right, and whatnot, right? So there is so that's one kind of assumption on my part, that it's like, this is not the way they fundamentally are. And then I see also this patina, this covering of a lot of this consensus, kumbaya, which leads again to not being direct on top of it. And I'm like, it seems very much like some kind of interesting political project whereby you bring in certain consultants in, like you can imagine also like in organizations, and they keep on pushing a particular organizational structure philosophy, and they just keep on doubling down on it, and it just kind of becomes second nature, and the people hire people whom are similar to them, Hence, it just kind of this is how, for example, you get heavy bias, in a particular direction, such as academia being super liberal, right? There's a self-selection aspect, and then people hire people that like them, and then blah blah blah, and then other people look from outside and be like, no, I don't even want to be in there, right? That
Right.
kind of a thing. So I do see that I see a seeming contradiction. So I want you. What's your interpretation? You're red-blooded American, know more about this than I do. What do you think about this and where it's coming from, or why do they act like that, or whatever?
I wonder if there's perhaps would be a way to track the development of technology that facilitated taking over. You could show up on the shore, you have guns, they don't. You have gunpowder, they have bows and arrows, whatever. If there's a relationship between that and a less confrontational sort of approach
Makes sense.
socially, I wonder if that's the case. And this is, this is not. In this sense, I'm not saying this is either good or bad. This is just recognizing that there seems to be certain patterns. And of course I'm going to say I would prefer somebody be more direct, because that's my culture speaking, because the people that I come from are that way, and disproportionately the people that I gravitate towards, even if they are members of the dominant society, they would be sort of outliers, in their sort of forthright and directness, as it were. So that's interesting. I mean, my dad talks about one of his friends, who he was not friends with initially, somebody he met at work. And this guy would just blurt stuff out. This white guy, he would just blurt all kinds of stuff out. And he grew to respect him, because though he disagreed on a lot of things that he said, and there was like some cultural lack of sensitivity and some other stuff and crudeness in what some of the stuff that he said, but him and my dad became, close friends. And so then he was able to learn more of that sort of, well, here's the issue with some of the things that you're saying. So my dad was able to have those conversations with him. He was receptive to that. But because this guy is so just shoot from the hip, he was somebody that my dad trusted even before he was somebody that he, regarded as probably his friend. So I think that there is a tendency for certain kinds of folks to gravitate towards that, to like people that just are straight shooters and just tell them what they think, and then there's folks that, they don't want you to do that. Maybe they want more, it to be more mysterious or something. I don't know. Or they so do not want confrontation that they'll find some other way to do it, so that they don't have to see the gruesomeness up close,
That's a good one. I would, the one about, well, if I can drone them from afar, maybe I don't need to have develop the personality traits of directness. I let my drone do the talking.
Yeah. So I wonder if there's a relationship between that. Yeah. Well, we can keep going.
I have a question for you all. Please raise your hand if you think backbiting takes place at your workplace or place of study. Please raise your hand. Wow. Okay. Thank you very much. It's not exact, but I think about 90% of you raised your hand. In ancient Greece, the great philosopher Socrates met an acquaintance on the street. An acquaintance said, "Hey, Socrates, have you heard the latest news about your friend?" And Socrates says, no, but before you tell me this news, I want you to pass a little test. It's called the triple filter test. The triple filter test, is that? Okay. First question. Do you know what you're going to tell me about my friend? Is it true? Oh no, I just heard it. I don't know. Okay. You could still pass the test. The second question. Is it anything good you're going to tell me about my friend? Oh no, on the contrary, he said. Nothing good. Okay. You may still pass the test. The third question. Is what you're going to tell me, is it useful? Oh no, it's not useful. Okay, Socrates said. First of all, you don't know if it's true. Second, it's nothing good. Third of all, it's nothing useful. Why bother tell me? Do you know who in our society today?
Man, I want to know what the guy said. Because it's because you want the tea, you want to hear.
This is interesting that you brought up the tea aspect. I'm just gonna make a quick comment about something I said before, and then also comment about what he just said here. But the quick comment about the tea is, I was talking earlier that the type of person that that is doing something malicious and such, and when they speak and blah blah blah, right? And I was thinking of, well, what are other ways in which people talk? Because people talk behind other people's backs. That's it's like not everything's going to be said. Not everything should be said in front of you, right? Okay, so that's not necessarily the issue. There's always layers of conversations. There's things you tell your wife, and then things you tell this and this. It's like, yeah, we get that. And then you have the tea kind of people who do the tea stuff, right? But not in a malicious way, right? That's just Shonda, and she's gonna tell you about how this person went on vacation, blah blah blah. And when it's bad stuff, and that's part of what one of the three tests here. Like, if Shonda likes to spill the tea, but it's true because she was there, or this person told her, you're like, oh yeah, Shonda knows it, it's true, and she's not telling bad things. And who knows, maybe they'll be useful or not. But I think if you pass those two, it's nothing bad, I would say. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously you're going to have conversations about other people when they're not present. I think that the critical point here is what it is that you're saying true. I mean, it's the three filters. If it so I don't necessarily have an issue with, like, what if you're talking about somebody, oh man, this dude is so great, man, he's just effortless when he does, whatever, if you're talking all these platitudes and stuff about someone, I mean, that's great, no problem. It really only is an issue if it's negative stuff, and then once more, negative stuff that will necessarily impact your ability to collaborate with others on your job. And that's why you're all meeting at the same place, where you go to a building, is because there is intended interactions. And if so, you're poisoning the possibility of positive interactions by dumping all of this toxic sludge in the mix. It's problematic, Another something from The Office that I'm reminded of. So Stanley, it's discovered that he's having an affair. Okay, and he's denying it, but then it comes out that he's having an affair. But before, and Michael's the one that figured it out. But Stanley begs him not to tell anyone. The problem is he already told a bunch of people. even before he had even before he had the confirmation that it was true, he had already told a bunch of people that he was having an affair. So what he did, because he wanted to disguise disguise that that rumor that he was spreading, he made up a bunch of rumors about everybody and then started spreading those. And then what happens is at the end of the workday, everybody's in the conference room and they start tracing back these rumors. And of course, all of them go back to Michael. He started all the rumors. Now, one of the rumors was that Pam was pregnant, but now he thought that he was just making that up, but actually it was true. But they didn't want anybody to know that yet. But there was all kinds of, goofy other stuff that was mixed in there. And so then it basically turns out that since Pam actually is pregnant, when they start tracing all this stuff back and Stanley's getting nervous, Pam steps up and says, "Yeah, no, I'm pregnant." So then, it actually works, but it doesn't actually work because, it slid out some other kind of way and his wife found out. So then, Stanley's out there destroying Michael's car at the end of the workday. So, but, yeah, the negative stuff, the saying a bunch of negative stuff about somebody to people, especially people that have had limited interaction with the person, that's like really dirty ball. That's real dirty ball because you cannot defend yourself from that. It would be one thing if they tried to spread rumors, but who it was they were trying to spread the stuff to, they knew you really well. They'd be like, "Dude, you need to stop telling people that stuff because that is false," because they would call him out on it. And or they would listen to him and then they would go right back to you and say, "Hey, you should know that this person is saying this." But that could be an approach to fixing that issue, is if everybody, anytime somebody said something negative, went right back to the object, whoever was being claimed that this negative thing, and told them what the thing was and who told it to them. I mean, you'd fix that instantly, but of course nobody's going to do that.
You know what? It's interesting, right? Because this brings to mind a particular the development of the historical development of certain political things, right? And something I was thinking about recently in other contexts, and I'll get to what the hell I'm talking about here in a second. But one of the ways in which, typically the way things go completely haywire in a society, in other words, revolutions, overturnings, is typically two elites fighting each other, right? It's not like the people really that come and overthrow. That's not what happened in the French Revolution or any revolutions, really. It's yes, they use the people. One group of elites, okay, uses the people, right? So, and typically there's a kind of there's a general mechanism that people have tried to use to describe how and when this particular elite clash happens. And it's typically from an economic point of view, there are many factors, but from, shall we say, economic/social status point of view, there are these chairs, right? The chairs of being an elite. You go to university, you get this, you're an elite, blah, blah, blah. And then people are playing musical chairs. As long as you have chairs to sit down on, you're fine. For several reasons, from time to time in societies, there are not enough chairs for people whom deem themselves to be elite, like they're entitled somehow to be something, to be in the middle class, whatever. We have, in this particular instance right now in our time, example of that, hence the populism, right? Because basically you can see if you use university education as one of those kind of chairs whereby, if you get this, you can sit there, right? that has started just from the past. Okay, you get a bachelor's degree, great. I mean, there was a time where you didn't even need a bachelor's degree if you're using the American context, right? And then, okay, get a bachelor's degree, you're good. And then now you got to get a master's. And now you got to get a PhD. And there was a time when you get a PhD and you get a job as a professor. And then no, you're not just gonna get a job. Like, so you can see the chairs leaving the freaking musical chair dance floor. You have many dissatisfied elites. When you have these dissatisfied elites, that's when the populism level starts boiling up even more. So just to say one, because this is quite interesting. If you look at the Donald Trump example, for example, right? Okay, we got populism. We have Donald Trump as one of the exemplars, right? Like, okay, what kind of elite versus elite clash is this? It's rather clear. You have the Manhattan, whitewash, clean, Harvard, whatever, elite, whatever. And then you have Trump, whom forever has always had his skin in his craw, and him and his dad, right? Because they're from Queens and they're not really, they're not the polished whatever, right? They're not the polished billionaires, right? So this is that clash. There are obviously two types of rich folk fighting each other here, elite types of that we're seeing, even in that example. Okay, why am I saying all this stuff? It's interesting in and of itself with regards to the mechanisms by which these particular elite clashes happen, right? And you can see how it could happen through cycles of history inevitably. But I was talking about the historical development of certain political things, and I was talking about basically English common law, right? And why is because of why did it come to mind? The right to face your accuser. That's basically what we've been talking about here in the past few minutes, right? And the beauty of the English common law, Magna Carta, all these different things is that they were used as ways of settling certain elite versus elite clashes, making certain things, and so there are two ways this thing could happen. In other words, when these people clash, either you're gonna die, right? The order gets struck down, or the order changes certain things. Like, okay, you know what? We're gonna give the people this stuff. The Russians, for example, they freed the serfs. By the Russians, I mean the Romanov family dynasty, the czars, right? They were like, things got heated. They were like, okay, we'll free the serfs, right? And then it comes down. The development of this English common law was a series after series of this free the serf type moves that recognized just evolutionary and over time. And that's why it's such a good kind of set of rules, these English common law things are that we then adopted, right? So when we say the right to face your accuser, it wasn't just some kind of, some philosopher sat down and thought about, I think that's a good one. It's like, no, it evolved over time, and they're rather simple but beautiful. And that's what we've been talking about here. You're talking behind people right in the back. No, you have to bring, who's this accuser? Okay, let's bring him right here, and let's the other person comes here, and let's hash it out.
Yeah. That point that you made, the right to face your accuser, that's at the heart of it. That's the part of it that seems, because in most cases, if you could face your accuser, and they're just saying some negative stuff or whatever that's not founded, they don't even know if it's true, I mean, that's the end of it right away. But this covert method shields the perpetrator. It shields them, which, yeah. All right, let's keep going.
That backbites? Yes, women.
Oh, no. Uh-oh.
Get
out of there. Get out of there.
Not in Oslo, no. He's got
women. It's another major group as well, namely men. And why do we backbite?
Can we pause for a second just for me to say something real quick? Because when he asked people to raise their hands, do you think does backbiting occur in your workplace, right? What I thought he was going to ask a follow-up question, but I guess this is European or whatever, in Oz or whatever. They're not that way. But I thought he was going to ask people, do you backbite? In order to see the difference between, 90% of the people raise their hands, but like nobody is backbiting, but everybody says there's backbiting going on. But anyways, what I'm seeing here is some kind of a circuitous route to getting there, to saying that, well, it seems like there are a lot of people backbiting. He hasn't said it directly. He said women backbite, men backbite, after asking the people, hey, there's backbiting going on. When he asked them that, I thought he was going to ask that follow-up question, that kind of like, well, there's a typical kind of like that symmetry type question, right? That gets done from time to time. It's a little parlor trick.
Yeah, and the other thing I was thinking was, so he asked, I thought he was asking where the location of the backbiting was. So they're all backbiting folks that they work with, but are they doing the backbiting on the job, or are they doing the backbiting, they're out somewhere, they see somebody that they work with, hey, did you hear this? I thought it at one point I thought that's what he was saying. I quickly figured out that that's not what he was saying. But part of the rig that I figured that out was because he didn't follow up and say, well, what percentage do you think are doing it outside of work then? If you think 90% are doing it at work, But anyhow.
When I backbite, I've got this feeling of elevating myself while talking other people down. In an additional bonus, I seem interesting because I got some juicy information that you don't have. This is how we as adults are bullying each other.
Interesting bringing the bullying thing into it. It's a passive-aggressive style of it, and perhaps using a sort of a type of terrorism, which is more insidious and less sort of, punchy, but it's poisonous and toxic nonetheless. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think that was a good way to bring it in there. He talked about elevating yourself, putting someone else down, and then being interesting. So interesting little ingredients there with regards to what the bully gets out of bullying, right? The interesting part, never quite thought of, but yes, social status. Look at me, I'm doing this stuff. I'm entertaining the hallway while I shove the nerd into the locker, right? This is cool. I'm interesting, right? That kind of a thing. But yes, the bullying behavior, which obviously doesn't stop, right? People are just people, and just kind of grown adults, grown children walking around, and I don't know if I've brought this up before, Dr. Thunder. It's a slight non sequitur here, but since I mentioned grown adults, right? One thing I've always kind of thought of as a good, and I think I've brought it up before for sure, a good way to interface with children, let's say, and especially if it's a man and a boy, let's say, because I think it's different for just for whatever reasons, right? That the idea is you're here just like I'm here, right? Okay, I didn't fall from the sky as you may think. Okay, no, I was born of a woman a few years before you in the overall scheme of things, right? You're here, I'm here, right? So there's no kind of real special insights or whatever that I got. All I have over you is, and this is heavily simplified, right? All I have over you is responsibility. And this responsibility is because I have experience and I'm doing these things. Yes, I'm responsible for getting you to school, roof over your head, all these things, right? And as you grow up, son, you know what this is. You're getting more and more responsibility. And when you get more and more responsibility for stuff, you have that quote unquote power over that stuff. I don't, no one has to shower you anymore, right? Now you're responsible. Whatever the hell you do in the shower, it's not my business anymore, okay? And so forth, slowly and slowly, this is how you become quote unquote me, right? Because for me, it creates a nice clean path, nothing mystical or crazy. They see a mountainous amount of work, but it's not, it's doable work. And also from the point of view of the adult, it's like, stop thinking you're some kind of a different creature than the kid or something. Like, no. But anyways, I'll get off that.
Interesting. Yeah, that the giving them a little bit more and more to do. I like the point about realizing that we're both the same sort of creature. We're just in different places, along this sort of path. And yeah. All right, let's keep going.
I have a second question for you.
Uh-oh.
Please raise your hand if you want to work in a place there is no backbiting going on. No gossip. Okay. Thank you very much. It's interesting, right? How to get a permanent end to backbiting. I've done one genius thing in my life. I think this is it. I call it Gossip 2016. And this is how you can all apply it in your workplace if you want to. First of all, you gather a group. Perhaps not as many as you are. Second of all, you ask the first question. Do you believe backbiting takes place here? And they will raise their hand. Third, you need to define what backbiting is. Use this triple filter test. It's good, right? Fourth, ask the second question. Would you like to work in a workplace where there is no backbiting? And they will raise their hand. Then you get a good old-fashioned flip over. And you capitalize Gossip 2016, and you ask your group if they want to join to a project that will last for 6 months. No backbiting takes place here. And they will sign. This is what obligates them.
This is interesting. Now, usually I'm not a sign me up for stuff kind of guy. I kind of look people sideways when they want me to sign something. And so there's an aspect of it that I think if somebody was asking me to sign something, I might be like, but I do think that most people would sign. High 90 percentile. I think people would sign. Because if they won't sign, then that may be an indication that they're the part of the problem. So they're sort of guilted into signing. And then also what's going to happen is the people that are eager to sign because they've been victims of this, the ones that are eager to sign, if these other folks signed just because they knew that they were going to be outed as the backbiters, if they didn't sign, at least for a time, there's not going to be any backbiting because there's not going to be anybody to talk to. It's going to eliminate the people that you can actually do that with.
Yeah, this guy has used a very passive-aggressive way to get to get these people, right? I was thinking it was gonna go directly, be like, okay, who backbites? And then you notice how nobody picked up. You're the backbiter.
yeah.
But
Stand up and be
he went
counted.
super passive aggressive.
It would be like shame, shame.
Yeah, exactly. But yes, I think you highlight the fact that he's using the group dynamics to force shoehorn people into a particular corner.
Yeah.
So he asked them, okay, do you not want, so everybody raises their hand. They don't want backbiting, right? So they're like, okay, come sign, right? So they're obviously gonna go sign. They already admitted in front of everybody, right? And then now, because that thing when everybody has done it in front of everybody else. So it's not like, oh, you heard that people, it's like, no, we all saw each other sign this stuff, right? So
Yep.
it makes it difficult to just start tomorrow morning, start talking shit.
Yeah.
So it's a nice little way of using the social dynamics to kind of, nice passive aggression there. Good job there, European man.
Yeah, yeah, his yeah, okay, yeah. All right, let's keep going.
After they signed, you get this sheet in a glass and frame, you put it on the wall where everybody can see it, and for every week for the next 6 months, you ask the group, how are we doing with Gossip 2016? This may seem simple, maybe naive. Too good to be true, right? But it works. I know. And but it's over 250 CEOs in different companies that could verify this. It works. They can also tell you that absenteeism, the sick leave, goes down.
Now that is, and you know exactly why that is. Because
I guess work sucks less, or
right,
what?
work sucks less, and there's less sort of anxiety and probably less insomnia, probably less, people, paranoia, people feeling like they're looking over their shoulder. There's less, I pretty much go to work regardless, if I'm feeling good, bad, or whatever. I played the Tina Turner musical a couple weeks ago, and I was just barely over a cold, and I was coughing through that whole musical. So look, I go to work when I'm sick, when I'm well. It doesn't matter if I slept, if I didn't sleep. It doesn't matter. That's just how I roll. But I'll tell you, people that are on the bubble, like I have a cold, I can take some cold medication, go to work. Or I have seasonal allergies, take my allergy medication, go to work. Or I cannot stand being there. I don't know who's backbiting. I don't know who's talking about me. You know what? I think I'm going to be out for a couple days. Man, I'll tell you, man, it's one of the worst things, one of the worst feelings is a place that you've given like a lot of years to, a lot of time to, turns into like a toxic scenario where there's all of this and you don't know who's coming from, backbiting and contention and all of this kind of stuff, to get you to the point where you actually don't even want to be there.
Yep.
that's crazy stuff, man. That's like it's amazing. It's amazing that you can get there.
Mhm.
It's amazing that you can
those were yeah.
yeah, it's amazing that you can get to a place where you can't stand this place and it's all you ever wanted, but now you can't take it anymore. So now you'd rather call in for sick days just to, and all of it basically created by backbiting.
Mhm.
So
and fractionation are minimized, and the productivity is increasing. If we take this concept a bit further, you all heard about the discussions about how young people and children are being bullied at schools and in social medias. I think that I, as an adult, has a responsibility to be a good role model. I have to stop talking negatively about my uncle, about my neighbor, about my colleague, about my mother-in-law, around the dinner table at home.
oh no, he's going too far.
Yeah. What the hell is that?
Yeah, come on now.
Come on,
I was with
shit,
him until he said that
Yeah.
mother-in-law stuff. Then I was like, come on, some stuff is just
Now he's just preaching.
That's right. I was totally with man. I was totally with this cat. And look, you see this thing right here is almost to the end of this video even. I was all the way to here, man, and then now I can't mess with this cat now.
Because if I don't do that, I'm actually saying to my children, it's okay to talk negatively about the third person who's not there.
Yep.
New consciousness commits. Thank you for your attention.
Yeah, I thought I dug this. I dug this. What do you think?
I think it was good. I like how he wrapped everything in there, but rather indirectly. He made things rather stark by implication, right? He started with the questions about the people raising their hands. If they think backbiting goes on, they don't want backbiting, do they? Right? I was like, okay, cool. Everything was positive. He didn't do what I thought he was gonna do. But then he immediately talked about who backbites, right? Ask the questions, but not in a direct way. They're not asking them. It's like, oh, men backbite and women backbite. The reason he said that, right? There's no reason to have brought up, oh man, was to point the finger at them, right? Like, okay, you know who backbites? Okay, it seems like you guys over there that are saying this back, y'all are doing it. I'm not gonna go in and be the judge of, I'm not gonna adjudicate the cases right now of who is, but y'all are doing it. So that was nice in there. And then obviously he ended pretty nicely with the whole scheme of getting people wrapped up in a social situation whereby everyone's going to raise their hand and say, yes, I'm for truth, justice, and American way. And then right there and then they say, go ahead and sign. And then he added the reinforcement, coming back every month and saying, how are we doing with this, right? So it's like, now you can't, it's not going to slide, right? Anyways, and all the names are there because you sign it and you hang it up. So everyone's name is up there. Anyways, it's pretty funny. And I think, anyways, it's rather interesting. It's rather interesting. Now, regular social dynamics will return with regards to certain things, but I think that the overall tone will be better. So maybe Shonda can keep on talking about the true and good and perhaps useful things that the tea still happens because people are going to do the tea stuff. No, that's, come on, social creatures, right? But whoever, Karen, the other one, will be weeded out, hopefully.
Yeah. And I like the what is it, TGU? Is it true? Is it good? Is it useful? As a sort of way to sort of, should I be doing this or not? Should I be sharing this information? I like the fact that in the example that he gave, it was the person about to be told the information that actually brought this up. And, and that's, usually people are like willing to listen to whatever garbage, somebody is peddling. So that takes a certain kind of discipline for you to say, before you tell me this, you need to tell me, X, Y, and Z. And if I'm not satisfied, then keep that crap to yourself.
So he actually did give a solution, which is something else one wondered about before the video started. And I didn't mention that, but I was like, is he going to give a solution? In other words, the kind of thing that everybody would agree is a solution. I have a fairly low bar when it comes to solutions, right? What I would consider a solution, because if you sufficiently elucidate the problem, I'm good with that. Like, I can see pathways of solve whatever. But this is the kind of solution where everybody, people who want steps and everything, will also be satisfied. Literally spelled it all the way out to you, like exactly what to do. And yeah, that was impressive.
Yeah. So it took us a few weeks to get to this one.
Yeah.
But it was worth the wait. It's definitely worth the wait. How's everything at the homestead? How's everything? You've been getting ish done?
Oh man, it's crazy. So there's certain, like, how moving tends to be a pain in the butt, right?
Oh yeah.
There's certain other things like that that are similar, right, in that realm. And for me in particular, I don't really like that realm. This realm of like changing stuff, moving this thing over here and moving that over there, buying a new house, and all that kind of stuff can be kind of particularly annoying for me. And I have like several of those kinds of things going on at the same time right now.
Yeah.
But in two countries, and in both in the home and in the business front. So it's just kind of been it's been very busy. Yes, I've been getting a lot of ish done, and I kind of past couple of days, uh, I think I slept a lot. It was kind of interesting. It was just like I slept. I would wake up. I would do some work, and I would just go back to bed. I'm like, yo, this is very interesting, but I'm not gonna fight it. Like, sometimes you're like, let's not fight this. I think just go to sleep. So yeah, how about you? As you mentioned in the video here and in other your videos, congratulations on the full professor stuff and the grind that was. But yeah, how about you?
Yeah, I am glad that part is behind me. And although they really, there was some, like I said, some snakes in the grass and some weird stuff that was attempted that was not effective, and I prevailed, of course. I am grateful to the institution for providing me the sort of platform, the base of operations, as it were, for all that I do.
Mhm.
In one of my posts, I said, I was hired an assistant professor on a tenured track in 2004. In 2010, I was promoted to associate professor with tenure, and that was in the spring. And now in 2024, and it was actually May 16th to be precise, I was promoted to full professor, of course, with tenure. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be 50 this year. It'll be 20 years at this institution in September. And, you know, there's a certain kind of symmetry and with the timing and, you know, and some other things. I also will have been Orthodox in December of this year. Officially came into the church 20 years ago. So some interesting sort of synchronicity and symmetry with what's going on. But yeah, it you know, so that's done. I mean, I've got all kinds of other things swirling about, some pretty massive transitions with what I do. Much of it is still the same, but there was some certain other things that I was much more involved in that are becoming less and less a thing, which is actually freeing up more of my time. So I've been able to focus more on, my research. And for a performer, research is performing. So I've got a couple projects that I'm working on right now. I've got this live looping project that I'm working on, and I have a new band called DT40, Dr. Thunder Top 40. So in the logo, the T will be for two different letters, Thunder and Top. And it's a band that's going to play, you know, a lot of you know, R&B and rock and roll and contemporary stuff. Kind of I don't want to necessarily pigeonhole it as a party band, but basically party band, you know, going after high dollar sort of events, big commercial events and weddings and all kinds of things. But that group is, you know, it's got 5 singers. There's a horn section, 4 horns, guitar, piano, bass, drums, and it's all in-ear monitors and Ableton Live and all. You know, we're producing shows, automatic lighting, all kinds of stuff. And I've been developing this sort of format for the last, let's see here, 8 years, about 8 or 9 years. And so kind of unveiling a sort of professional version of this group. So that's a big deal. I got a big video and promo shoot this Sunday. So looking forward to doing that. It's been a lot of effort by a lot of folks to get us here. And so that's going to be great. I'm training in sort of bringing into the fold a manager to manage my music career stuff, and I'm going to become a lot more focused on that aspect. And I kind of feel like when I took the job at institution that I'm at, the college that I teach at, when I took the job, I sort of put some things on the back burner, and I kind of had to do that because the tenure clock is unrelenting, and it's up or out at that level, up or out. If I didn't get tenure, I would have gotten 1 year to find another job. So you have to put all of your eggs in that basket. And and then, you know, I kind of switched after I got tenure to starting to focus on, okay, am I going to do a doctorate? Am I going to do this or that? And then I'm playing at churches and I'm writing all this music and doing all this production and stuff for churches. And a lot of that stuff took away from, you know, a lot, you know, me kind of focusing on my own thing. I'd say I probably have 4 or 5 more CDs out by now. If I hadn't sort of made that sort of switch, that sort of transition. But I'm, you know, so my idea is to use this as an opportunity to transition back towards the stuff that I want to be doing. Speaking of, tomorrow I've got a, you know, Dr. Thunder Quartet. We play once a month. I live stream at 6 to 10. Been working on the audio. It's been challenging because video is fine. Video looks good, but the audio has been challenging because we've been trying to patch into the house system, which means that we're limited by their equipment and their mixing capability. And otherwise, I'd have to bring all of my own equipment and mic the whole thing myself, and that it's just too cumbersome to do it for that particular venue. But I just acquired a piece of gear that's going to fix that issue. So the sound should be quite a bit better tomorrow. So that gig is 6 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yes, that's my gig at Ginger Rabbit once a month with Dr. Thunder Quartet. Also, Dr. Thunder Quartet will be performing at the Flint Jazz Festival. The Flint Jazz Festival, July 27th, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's hot off the press. That's a festival that I played. That's Flint, Michigan. I grew up in Michigan. It used to be called the King Cobra Jazz Festival. And, you know, I played that festival a few times when I was, you know, in my early 20s. And so this is kind of like a nice full circle kind of a thing, coming back, you know, coming back to Michigan and with my band. So that's pretty cool. But you know, there's a bunch of good stuff happening. It hasn't just been the sort of slog and struggle. It's just, you know, when that stuff is like over your head and it's like, and you can't do, and you know that people are, as this video suggested, you're sure that there's been a lot of contention and backbiting associated with, you know, what's going on. It just, you can't control it. You can't do anything about it. Probably at times I'll probably let it get the best of me, in a way that maybe I wish I didn't, but you know, and before the stream started, I told you I was, you know, I kind of returned to having some issues sleeping and stuff. And so hopefully that stuff will chill out now.
Very good, very good. Just the word there on what you're saying. One of the aspects of what you said, right, was going back, and then you ended up with the jazz festival full circle kind of going back thing. And it is a perspective which people, you know, it's hard for people to have perspective, right, when they have to put one thing in the back burner or put something aside and stuff like that, or have to pivot and this and that. I find that with these crossroads in people's lives, they tend to be disheartened, confused, and such, right? But what you've just demonstrated is that, look, you know, life is short, but it's kind of long enough if you, right, for you to be able to, for things to come back, for things to circle back, for you to be able to then go to the next thing after establishing certain platforms, using it as a launch pad to jump to the next lily pad or whatever the hell you want to mix metaphors here, right? I think that that was a very important thing there that you mentioned. So if you're someone listening right now, probably younger, and you're thinking, "Oh, seems like I'm not going to be able to do X or Y. I got to put it on the side for now. Oh, it's all over." No, don't forget about it. It's not over. Put it on the side. It'll come back if you're diligent, or well, obviously, yeah, God willing, as they say. It's- things could be a complete disaster, okay? But if you're lucky, you'll get another shot at it.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, so that's our time. Thanks again, folks, for being here. Next week we should be over on Ike's channel, getting Ish Done with Ike and Dr. Thunder. Wednesday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We started at 10. Well, sometime between 9:30 and 10 or something in there. We'll likely start. As summer approaches, that time's probably going to need to be 10 because my son will be probably up later. So that kind of translates to a number of things. But yeah. And that's our time today. Thanks, folks, for being here. And for you ninjas complaining that that there's not enough productivity oriented content, that's why we do this. I do it also because I enjoy it, and this is one of the shows that I enjoy the most of any of the things that I do, because I think it's important. But we're gonna need folks to show up, spread the word about the show, and support and all that. So that's our time, and we will see you next time. Peace.
Peace, indeed.